Most people fight their problems with endless struggle, creating more resistance and deeper suffering with each attempt. But Joel Goldsmith, the pioneering mystic who transformed thousands of lives, discovered a revolutionary truth that changes everything. Problems exist only in human consciousness, never in divine reality. When you shift from fighting to understanding, miracles happen naturally through spiritual realization that transcends ordinary thinking. The secret lies in recognizing that what appears as an overwhelming problem is actually a divine invitation to expand your consciousness beyond human limitation. Every challenge, no matter how devastating it seems, contains within itself the seed of its own complete dissolution. This isn't positive thinking, denial, or wishful hoping. This is accessing the realm of consciousness, where problems simply cannot exist because divine perfection is the only reality. Today, you'll discover the exact method Joel used to help thousands transform their most desperate situations into demonstrations of divine power, not through struggle, effort, or human willpower, but through a profound shift in consciousness that makes problems disappear as naturally and effortlessly as darkness vanishes the moment light enters a room. Your transformation begins right now with understanding this fundamental principle of consciousness. Your entire relationship with challenges is about to change forever as you learn to see beyond appearances to the spiritual truth that dissolves every problem at its source within your own awareness. Joel discovered through decades of mystical experience that consciousness operates on two distinct levels: the human sense of separation where problems appear absolutely real and threatening, and the divine consciousness where only wholeness, perfection, and harmony exist. The moment you stop identifying with human limitation and recognize your true spiritual nature, problems lose their power over you completely and permanently. This transformation isn't about changing external circumstances first, then feeling better. It's about changing the consciousness that creates and maintains those circumstances from within your own awareness. When you align with divine consciousness, what seemed impossible becomes inevitable. What felt overwhelming becomes manageable, and what appeared permanent begins dissolving naturally. Think of it like awakening from a vivid nightmare. In the dream, problems felt absolutely real, urgent, and terrifying. But upon awakening, you realize they never had any actual substance, power, or reality beyond your temporary belief in them. This awakening from the dream of separation is what Joel called the mystical experience of truth that sets you free. The shift happens not through mental effort, but through spiritual recognition of what has always been true about your divine nature and unlimited potential for demonstration. The technique begins with what Joel called the sacred pause. When facing any problem, instead of immediately reacting with fear or frantically trying to fix the situation, you pause and ask this transformative question: what is the spiritual truth about this situation that transcends all human appearances? This simple question shifts you from human problem-solving to divine revelation and guidance. In this pause, you consciously remember that divine consciousness knows no problems, lacks absolutely nothing, and operates in perfect harmony and unlimited abundance. You stop trying to heal, fix, or change anything on the human level through struggle or willpower. Instead, you become completely receptive to the spiritual truth that dissolves the illusion of the problem from within. This receptivity is absolutely crucial for success. You're not forcing a solution, manipulating outcomes, or trying to make something happen through mental effort. You're simply opening your consciousness like a flower opens to sunlight, to receive the truth that is always present, but often overlooked by human thinking patterns. The pause creates space for divine intelligence to reveal solutions that exceed anything human thinking could devise or imagine. Joel emphasized that this isn't a mental exercise or positive thinking technique, but a genuine spiritual communion with divine consciousness. You're not thinking your way to a solution through logic or analysis. You're aligning with the consciousness of God where perfect solutions already exist in complete fullness. This alignment happens through recognition, not effort, willpower, or traditional positive thinking techniques. The recognition is beautifully simple yet infinitely powerful. I and the Father are one. This oneness means that divine wisdom, infinite power, and unconditional love are your true spiritual nature right now. Problems cannot exist in divine consciousness. Therefore, they cannot truly exist in you when you know who you really are beyond human appearances. Practice this immediately with any current challenge you're facing. Pause, recognize your divine nature, and feel the profound shift from problem consciousness to solution consciousness. Notice how the urgency fades away and deep peace enters your awareness naturally. This is the beginning of your complete transformation through Joel's revolutionary method that has changed countless lives around the world. Maria faced complete bankruptcy after her business partner disappeared overnight with all their funds, leaving her with crushing debt and no apparent way forward. Traditional advice focused on legal action, finding new investors, and damage control. But through Joel's consciousness method, she paused and recognized that divine abundance was her true spiritual nature, not the temporary financial appearances suggesting lack. Within just a few weeks of maintaining this consciousness of abundance, unexpected opportunities began appearing that seemed impossible under the circumstances. New partnerships formed, forgotten assets were recovered, and innovative solutions emerged that not only restored her business completely, but expanded it beyond her original dreams and expectations. She didn't struggle, manipulate, or force outcomes through human effort. She simply maintained the consciousness of abundance while taking inspired action guided by divine intelligence. The same infinite intelligence that operates the entire universe began operating through her circumstances, transforming what seemed like financial disaster into the catalyst for greater prosperity than ever before. This transformation happened not through positive thinking, but through consistent spiritual recognition of her oneness with infinite supply and abundance. David's marriage was ending after 20 difficult years together. Professional counseling had failed completely, communication had broken down beyond repair, and divorce seemed not only inevitable, but necessary for both their sanity. Instead of continuing to fight for the relationship through human will, he applied Joel's principle of releasing personal will and aligning with divine will for their marriage. He stopped trying to change his wife's behavior or fix their accumulated problems through discussion, compromise, or manipulation. Instead, he consistently recognized the divine love that was their true spiritual nature, beneath all human personality conflicts. He practiced seeing beyond human limitations to their shared spiritual identity that could never be separated from love itself. Gradually, both began experiencing their relationship from this higher consciousness of unconditional love. Old patterns of conflict dissolved naturally without effort or discussion. They rediscovered not just their love for each other, but their shared identity in divine consciousness that transcended all human differences and misunderstandings. The marriage that seemed dead and buried was completely reborn in spiritual understanding, becoming stronger and more harmonious than ever before. Sarah's doctor delivered devastating news: a serious medical condition requiring immediate surgery with uncertain outcomes. Fear gripped her mind as she imagined worst-case scenarios and struggled with overwhelming anxiety. But remembering Joel's teachings, she recognized that divine perfection was her true state of being, not the physical symptoms her body was currently displaying to medical examination. She didn't deny the medical diagnosis or refuse professional treatment. Instead, she maintained the consciousness of wholeness while working cooperatively with her medical team. She knew with unshakable conviction that divine life expressing through her was incapable of disease, limitation, or imperfection of any kind whatsoever. The consciousness of wholeness began manifesting in her physical experience almost immediately. Medical tests improved dramatically beyond medical explanation, surgery became completely unnecessary, and her doctor called it the most remarkable recovery he'd witnessed in 30 years of practice. Sarah learned that true healing happens when consciousness aligns perfectly with the truth of divine perfection, expressing as individual experience. These remarkable transformations all share one common element: the fundamental shift from problem-focused consciousness to truth-based consciousness. Joel taught that whatever we consistently focus our attention upon expands in our experience. Focus on problems and they multiply endlessly. Focus on divine truth and problems dissolve naturally in its brilliant light, like shadows disappear at sunrise. This isn't mere philosophy or abstract spirituality, but practical mysticism that produces tangible results. When you consistently practice recognizing divine truth in every situation, your entire life begins reflecting that truth in concrete ways. Problems become opportunities for deeper spiritual recognition and greater demonstration of divine power working through consciousness. The key to success is consistency and unshakable conviction. Every challenge becomes a precious chance to practice this consciousness shift. With each practice session, your confidence in divine truth grows stronger, while your belief in problem reality grows weaker until it finally disappears completely. If these transformation stories inspire you, like this video to help others find these teachings, subscribe for more Joel Goldsmith wisdom, and comment. What healing journey resonated most with you? Joel taught a powerful complementary technique called the spiritual treatment. This isn't prayer asking God to change something that's wrong, but conscious recognition of what is already perfectly true in divine consciousness right now. You declare the spiritual facts about your situation, knowing these facts are infinitely more real than any temporary appearances suggesting otherwise. A treatment for financial lack might sound like, divine abundance is my true nature right now. Lack exists only in human belief, never in divine reality. I recognize my complete oneness with infinite supply at this moment. You speak these truths with absolute conviction, feeling their reality deeply rather than hoping they might become true someday. The treatment works by systematically replacing problem thoughts with truth thoughts in your consciousness. Since consciousness creates all experience, as your inner recognition changes completely, your outer experience must follow naturally. This is spiritual law operating through your transformed awareness with mathematical precision. Regular treatment work establishes new thought patterns that automatically generate experiences aligned with divine truth rather than human limitation. Another powerful tool is what Joel called the listening ear. After recognizing divine truth about your situation through treatment, you become very still and listen carefully for divine guidance about practical steps. This guidance comes as intuition, inspiration, sudden knowing, or clear inner direction about what actions to take next for best results. This listening isn't passive waiting or hoping something happens, but active spiritual receptivity. You've acknowledged that divine intelligence knows the perfect solution and is communicating that solution to you right now through your spiritual awareness. Your job is becoming quiet enough to receive it clearly and completely without mental interference. Many people miss divine guidance because they're too busy trying to figure out solutions mentally through analysis and worry. Joel taught that divine intelligence operates far beyond human thinking limitations. When you listen with genuine spiritual awareness, the guidance that comes is often surprisingly simple, yet completely effective in resolving complex situations. The key is trusting what you receive and acting upon it with confidence, even when it differs from logical human reasoning. Joel also emphasized the critical importance of maintaining the vision. After receiving spiritual insight about your situation, you hold that vision steady and unwavering regardless of what temporary appearances may suggest to your physical senses. This requires spiritual maturity and deep conviction in truth over circumstances, especially during challenging periods. Maintaining the vision doesn't mean ignoring practical steps or refusing to take appropriate action. It means taking those steps from the consciousness of the solution rather than the consciousness of the problem. You act from knowing the outcome rather than hoping for results, from wholeness rather than desperation or fear. This steady recognition gradually transforms the entire situation from within. What began as an overwhelming problem becomes a beautiful demonstration of divine power working through consciousness. Your unwavering vision allows divine reality to manifest in your experience naturally and completely over time. Consistency in maintaining the vision is what separates successful practitioners from those who give up when immediate results don't appear. The practice of giving thanks in advance completes these complementary techniques beautifully. Joel taught that heartfelt gratitude for the spiritual solution activates its manifestation in your physical experience. You thank divine consciousness for the perfection that is already established in truth, even before seeing evidence with your physical eyes. This gratitude isn't forced positivity or pretending everything is fine when it isn't. It's authentic appreciation for divine wisdom, infinite love, and unlimited power that you know is operating in your situation right now. You feel genuinely thankful because you recognize that in divine consciousness, your problem is already resolved perfectly. This thankful consciousness becomes naturally magnetic to solutions and demonstrations. When you're truly grateful for divine provision, your experience begins reflecting that provision in concrete, measurable ways. Gratitude transforms you into a consciousness that naturally receives and demonstrates divine good abundantly. The combination of treatment, listening, vision, and gratitude creates an unshakable foundation for consistent demonstration of divine truth in daily experience. The biggest challenge people face with Joel's method is persistent doubt during the lag time between spiritual recognition and physical manifestation. Human consciousness demands immediate visible results, but spiritual transformation often works invisibly in consciousness before becoming evident externally. This period tests your faith and commitment to truth over appearances. During this challenging period, it's absolutely crucial to remember that divine consciousness operates completely outside human time limitations. Your recognition of truth is instantly real and complete in the spiritual realm. The appearance of that truth in your physical experience follows naturally as consciousness manifests its contents according to spiritual law. Joel taught that persistent doubt cancels out spiritual recognition like clouds block sunlight. When doubt arises in your mind, simply return gently to the truth you recognized earlier. Remind yourself that divine consciousness is unchanging and eternal, and your oneness with it is permanent and unshakable, regardless of temporary appearances. Doubt is simply a habit of human thinking that dissolves through consistent practice of recognizing truth over circumstances. Another common obstacle is trying to outline exactly how the solution should appear in your experience. Human thinking wants to control the method, timing, and specific details of divine demonstration. But Joel emphasized that divine intelligence knows ways and means far beyond human imagination and limitation, often working through unexpected channels. Your role is recognition and receptivity, not direction and control of outcomes. When you release personal will completely and trust divine will, solutions often come through channels that seem impossible or unlikely, yet prove more effective than anything you could have planned or orchestrated through human effort. This release requires spiritual maturity but brings tremendous freedom from the burden of responsibility. You no longer carry the crushing weight of figuring everything out mentally. Divine intelligence assumes complete responsibility for the how, when, and where, while you maintain the consciousness of truth with peaceful confidence. Learning to let go of human control opens the way for divine solutions that exceed your highest expectations and dreams. The challenge of old thought patterns also tests your commitment to consciousness transformation. Years of problem-focused thinking create deep mental habits that resist spiritual recognition. These ingrained patterns may persist automatically even after you understand Joel's principles intellectually and want to apply them consistently. Transformation requires patient, consistent practice until truth-based thinking becomes your natural, automatic response to every situation. Each time you catch yourself returning to problem consciousness, gently redirect your awareness to divine truth without self-criticism or frustration. This retraining process takes time but creates permanent change in consciousness. Joel taught that persistence in right thinking eventually establishes spiritual consciousness as your default state of awareness. Problems lose their grip on your mind because you've developed the unshakable habit of seeing through appearances to the underlying spiritual reality that never changes. The old patterns weaken through consistent non-use while new patterns of truth recognition grow stronger through daily practice and application. When facing intense challenges that seem overwhelming, the natural temptation is to abandon spiritual consciousness and return to familiar human problem-solving methods. This is exactly when Joel's principles prove most powerful and transformative. The greater the challenge, the greater the opportunity for spiritual demonstration and consciousness expansion. Intense situations reveal where your deepest faith really lies, in human solutions or divine consciousness. When you maintain spiritual recognition despite overwhelming appearances that suggest otherwise, you develop unshakable conviction in truth over circumstances. This conviction becomes your greatest spiritual asset and source of inner strength. Remember that divine consciousness recognizes no degrees of difficulty whatsoever. What appears impossible to human thinking is simply another beautiful opportunity for divine power to express its unlimited nature through your recognition and receptivity to truth. If these challenge-breaking techniques speak to your heart, Like to support this content, subscribe for advanced spiritual practices, and comment. Which obstacle are you ready to transform now? Advanced practitioners learn to apply Joel's consciousness method to multiple areas of life simultaneously. Instead of working on problems one at a time in isolation, they recognize that one divine consciousness is the truth about every aspect of their experience without exception. This comprehensive recognition creates exponentially greater results than focusing on individual problems separately. This expanded awareness creates what Joel called the all-over transformation. Your entire life begins reflecting spiritual consciousness rather than just isolated improvements in specific areas. Health, relationships, finances, career, and personal fulfillment all harmonize in divine order because consciousness is unified and indivisible. The key is maintaining this expanded awareness consistently throughout each day. When you truly understand that one divine consciousness governs all experience, you stop compartmentalizing your spiritual practice. Every moment becomes a precious opportunity to recognize and demonstrate divine truth universally. This holistic approach produces results that seem miraculous because you're working with the unified field of consciousness rather than addressing separate problems. Joel taught advanced students to become transparent to truth. This means your personal will becomes so perfectly aligned with divine will that divine consciousness flows through you completely unobstructed. You become a clear, pure channel for divine intelligence, unconditional love, and unlimited power to express itself naturally. Transparency develops through consistent surrender of personal goals, desires, and agendas to divine purpose. You discover that divine will for you exceeds anything you could desire or imagine from a personal perspective. Your highest good is absolutely guaranteed because it flows from infinite wisdom and perfect love. This transparency creates completely effortless living. Instead of struggling to make things happen through willpower, you become receptive to what divine consciousness wants to accomplish through you. Life becomes a continuous demonstration of divine consciousness, expressing its nature as harmony, abundance, joy, and perfect fulfillment. Personal effort is replaced by divine grace operating through your willing cooperation and receptivity to unlimited good. Advanced practice includes what Joel called the ministry of presence. Your transformed consciousness begins positively affecting others without any conscious effort on your part. People naturally sense the peace, harmony, and spiritual power you embody, and are automatically elevated by your presence alone, often without understanding why they feel better. This isn't about becoming a professional teacher or healer. It's about becoming so established in spiritual consciousness that everyone you encounter receives a genuine blessing simply through contact with your transformed awareness. Your very presence becomes healing and uplifting to others naturally. Joel discovered that consciousness is contagious in the most beautiful way. When you consistently demonstrate divine truth in your experience, others naturally begin recognizing that same truth operating in their own lives. You become a catalyst for universal awakening simply by being authentic to your spiritual nature. This ministry of presence is the highest service you can offer humanity, being a living demonstration of divine consciousness in action. The ultimate advanced practice is what Joel termed living the mystical life. Every experience, whether pleasant or challenging, becomes an opportunity to recognize divine presence and purpose, operating through your individual expression. Problems disappear permanently because you no longer generate the consciousness that creates them through resistance and separation. This mystical consciousness sees divine activity in absolutely everything. What others perceive as random events, coincidences, or problems, you recognize as divine intelligence orchestrating perfect unfoldment for everyone's highest good. You live in constant communion with spiritual reality regardless of external circumstances. At this level of consciousness, you've transcended the need for specific techniques because spiritual consciousness has become your natural state of awareness. You are the method, a living, breathing demonstration of divine truth expressing itself as your individual experience of abundant life. This is the goal toward which all spiritual practice leads, complete identification with divine consciousness, expressing as your unique individual experience. Your transformation through Joel's consciousness method fundamentally changes how you relate to any challenges that may arise. What once triggered immediate fear and desperation now simply calls forth deeper spiritual recognition of truth. You've developed complete immunity to problem consciousness through consistent practice and demonstration. This doesn't mean external challenges never arise in your experience, but your response to them is completely transformed. Instead of seeing problems that overwhelm you, you see opportunities to demonstrate spiritual truth more deeply. Every situation becomes a chance to prove the supremacy of consciousness over circumstances through practical application. Your life becomes an ongoing testimony to the practical power of spiritual understanding. Others witness your consistent peace, effectiveness, and joy, inspiring them to discover the same consciousness principles that have transformed your experience so completely and permanently. You become living proof that divine consciousness is not just beautiful theory, but practical reality that can be demonstrated by anyone willing to practice consistently. The ripple effects of your consciousness transformation extend far beyond your personal experience, creating positive change in every relationship and situation. Family relationships heal naturally as you stop trying to change others and simply maintain spiritual recognition of their true divine nature. Business succeeds as divine intelligence guides all decisions. Your transformed consciousness creates what Joel called a healing atmosphere wherever you go. Problems that seem overwhelming to others resolve naturally in your presence because you hold the consciousness where such problems simply cannot exist or maintain themselves. You've become a genuinely beneficial presence in the world, contributing to collective awakening simply by maintaining individual spiritual consciousness. Your demonstration proves conclusively that divine truth is practical and available to anyone willing to consistently practice recognition. The world becomes a better place through your individual transformation, as consciousness change spreads naturally from person to person through spiritual contagion. Joel's ultimate teaching is that consciousness is the only power, the only presence, the only reality operating in your experience and the entire universe. When you truly understand and embody this truth, you stop fighting problems and start recognizing the divine truth that dissolves them naturally. Your entire approach to life transforms from human struggle to divine demonstration. This recognition brings profound peace and unshakable confidence in any situation. You know with absolute certainty that regardless of what appears to your physical senses, divine consciousness is the truth about every situation. Problems become temporary illusions that fade naturally when exposed to the light of spiritual understanding. Your life becomes living evidence that miracles are completely natural when consciousness aligns with truth. What others call impossible becomes your normal experience because you've learned to live consistently from the consciousness where all things are possible through divine intelligence. This is the freedom and power that Joel discovered and shared with thousands who transformed their lives through these eternal principles. Today you've discovered Joel Goldsmith's revolutionary secret that has transformed countless lives. Problems disappear completely when consciousness recognizes divine truth as the only reality operating in your experience. This isn't abstract theory, but practical mysticism that transforms every aspect of your life when consistently applied with conviction and understanding. Begin immediately with whatever challenge you're currently facing. Practice the sacred pause, recognize your divine nature, listen for inner guidance, maintain the spiritual vision steadily, and give heartfelt thanks for the perfection already established in truth. Practice these steps until this becomes your automatic response to every situation. Your complete transformation is inevitable as you consistently choose truth consciousness over problem consciousness in every moment. Every single day will bring new opportunities to demonstrate spiritual understanding until divine consciousness becomes your permanent state of awareness and natural way of life. If your spiritual understanding expanded through these Joel Goldsmith secrets, like this video, subscribe for more transformative teachings, and comment, "I am transformed," to confirm your new path.